Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez had been staring at the surveillance reports for 3 hours straight. Her eyes burned from the blue light of the computer screen, but she couldn't look away. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. The military base at Fort Davidson, Arizona, was preparing for the biggest event of the year. General William Harrison, a decorated 4-star general and war hero, was coming for the annual ceremony honoring fallen soldiers. The entire base was buzzing with activity. Soldiers polished their boots until they gleamed. Flags were raised and inspected. Security teams ran through their protocols again and again, but Maya saw something no one else had noticed. She worked in intelligence analysis, a job most people on the base didn't understand or care about. While other soldiers trained in the desert heat or ran drills, Maya sat in a small windowless office reading reports, analyzing patterns, and connecting dots. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't exciting. But it was important, and right now her instincts were screaming at her. Maya had noticed irregularities in the security contractor files. 3 new guards had been hired for the general's visit, but their background checks seemed too clean. Too perfect. No social media presence before 5 years ago. Work histories that checked out on paper but felt hollow. She had run their photos through additional databases, and one of them had a facial recognition match to a person of interest, flagged by federal agencies 2 years prior. It wasn't a confirmed threat, not yet, but it was enough to make her heart race. She picked up the phone and called her direct superior, Major Dennis Cole. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice clipped and impatient. "Sir, this is Rodriguez. I need to report a potential security concern regarding the general's visit tomorrow." There was a pause, then a heavy sigh. "Rodriguez, we've been over this. The security protocols have been reviewed by 3 separate teams. Everything is locked down." "Sir, I understand, but I've found inconsistencies in the background checks of 3 contract guards. One of them has a possible match to—" "A possible match?" Major Cole cut her off. "Do you have confirmation?" "Not yet, sir, but the pattern suggests—" "Rodriguez, I don't have time for patterns and suggestions. Do you know how many people have been working on this event? Do you know how many hours have gone into planning? We have actual confirmed threats to worry about. Bring me something solid or don't bring me anything at all." The line went dead. Maya sat back in her chair, frustration building in her chest. She had been in the Army for 8 years. She had served overseas, earned her position through hard work and dedication, and developed a reputation for being thorough and accurate. But she was also a woman in a field still dominated by men, and she was only a staff sergeant. Her warnings didn't carry the same weight as those from officers with higher ranks and deeper voices. She looked at the files again. Her gut told her she was right, but what could she do? The next morning, Maya arrived at the ceremony grounds before dawn. The event was being held in the central parade field, a wide-open space surrounded by buildings on 3 sides. Bleachers had been set up for guests and family members. A stage stood at the front, draped in red, white, and blue bunting. American flags lined the walkways. Security personnel were everywhere. Military police, Secret Service agents borrowed from a nearby detail, and the contracted guards Maya had flagged in her report. She spotted one of them immediately. He stood near the east entrance wearing the standard security uniform, an earpiece in his ear, his eyes scanning the crowd. He looked professional, calm, exactly like he was supposed to look, but Maya noticed the way his hand kept moving to his side, the way his jaw clenched when he thought no one was watching, the way his eyes lingered too long on the stage. She had to try again. Maya made her way to the command tent where Major Cole was coordinating with the security team. She stepped inside, her heart pounding. "Sir, I need 2 minutes." Major Cole looked up from a clipboard, annoyance flashing across his face. "Rodriguez, we're 30 minutes from the general's arrival." "I don't have 2 minutes." "Sir, please. The contract guards I flagged yesterday, they're here. I've been observing one of them, and his behavior is off." "I think we need to pull them from duty and question them before—" "Before what?" Major Cole snapped. "Before you embarrass this entire base with another false alarm? Do you remember the incident last year? You reported a suspicious vehicle that turned out to be a lost pizza delivery driver." Heat rushed to Maya's face. "Sir, that was different. This is you being paranoid," Major Cole said, his voice rising. "You're a decent analyst, Rodriguez, but you see threats everywhere. You don't have the experience to understand the difference between a real danger and a coincidence. Now I have a job to do, so do you. Go back to your post and let the professionals handle security. Maya felt the sting of his words, but she held her ground. Sir, I am a professional, and I'm telling you, something is wrong. Major Cole stepped closer, lowering his voice so the others in the tent couldn't hear. You want to be taken seriously, Staff Sergeant? Then stop acting like every hunch is a crisis. You're making yourself look foolish, and you're making me regret assigning you to this detail. Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to argue to make him listen, but she could see it in his eyes. He had already dismissed her. She saluted sharply and left the tent. Outside, the sun was rising over the desert, casting long shadows across the parade field. Soldiers were gathering in formation. Guests were filling the bleachers. Everything looked perfect, but Maya's hands were shaking. She walked toward the east entrance where the guard she had been watching was still stationed. As she approached, he glanced at her, his expression neutral. She studied his face, memorizing every detail, and then she saw it. A small, almost imperceptible bulge under his jacket just above his hip. It wasn't his service weapon. That was holstered on his other side. This was something else. Maya's blood ran cold. She turned and walked quickly back toward the command tent, her mind racing. She needed proof. She needed someone to listen. But as she reached for her radio, she heard the announcement over the loudspeakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of General William Harrison. A black SUV rolled onto the parade field, flags mounted on the hood. The crowd stood and applauded. The army band began to play, and Maya's heart sank. She was out of time. General William Harrison stepped out of the SUV with the confidence of a man who had commanded thousands of soldiers and walked through war zones without flinching. He was tall, with silver hair and a chest full of medals that caught the morning sun. His presence was magnetic. Even from a distance, Maya could feel the weight of his authority. The crowd erupted in applause. Families of fallen soldiers wiped tears from their eyes. Young soldiers stood at attention, honored to be in his presence. General Harrison waved, his smile broad and genuine, and made his way toward the stage. Maya's eyes darted between the general and the guard at the east entrance. The guard had shifted his position. He was no longer scanning the crowd. He was watching the general. She grabbed her radio, switching to the security channel. This is Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. I have a potential threat at the east entrance. Contract guard, brown hair, scar on his left cheek. I need someone to detain him immediately. Static crackled. Then a voice came through, calm and dismissive. Rodriguez, all posts are secured. Stay off this channel unless you have confirmed intel. I do have confirmed intel. Maya's voice rose, desperation creeping in. He's carrying a concealed weapon that's not regulation. He's focused on the general. You need to... Rodriguez, stand down. Major Cole's voice cut through the radio. That's an order. Maya's hand dropped to her side, the radio suddenly heavy. She looked toward the stage. General Harrison was climbing the steps, waving to the crowd. He was 50 feet away from the guard, 40, 30. No one was listening to her. No one believed her, but she believed herself. Maya began moving toward the east entrance, weaving through the crowd. She kept her eyes on the guard, watching his every movement. His hand slipped inside his jacket. His body tensed. She broke into a run. Stop, she shouted. But her voice was swallowed by the applause and the music. The guard pulled a handgun from inside his jacket, a weapon with a suppressor attached. His arm rose, the barrel aimed directly at General Harrison, who stood at the podium, his back to the threat. Maya's training took over. She didn't think. She just moved. She launched herself toward the general, her body colliding with his just as the first shot fired. The sound was a muffled pop, barely audible over the noise of the ceremony. But Maya felt the impact. The bullet tore through her shoulder, white-hot pain exploding through her body. She and the general hit the stage floor hard, her body covering his. For a moment, there was silence. Confusion. Then chaos erupted. Security personnel swarmed the area. Someone screamed. The band stopped playing. Maya heard shouts. The sound of boots pounding the ground and the sharp commands of soldiers taking control. She tried to push herself up, but her left arm wouldn't respond. Blood was spreading across her uniform, warm and wet. Her vision blurred at the edges. Stay down, a voice shouted. Strong hands grabbed her, pulling her off the general. General Harrison was on his feet, his face pale with shock. What the hell just happened? Shoot her! East entrance, someone yelled. Maya turned her head, fighting to stay conscious. She saw the guard being tackled to the ground by 3 military police officers. His weapon clattered across the pavement. Another guard, one of the ones she had flagged, was running toward the exit but was brought down by a Secret Service agent. "Medic!" someone shouted. "We need a medic!" Maya's breathing was shallow. The pain in her shoulder was unbearable, radiating down her arm and across her chest. But through the haze, she felt a strange sense of relief. She had been right, and General Harrison was alive. A medic dropped to her side, pressing gauze against her wound. "Stay with me, Sergeant. You're going to be okay. Just stay with me." Maya's eyes drifted to General Harrison, who was being escorted off the stage by his security detail. He looked back at her, his expression unreadable. Then everything went black. Maya woke up in a hospital bed, the sterile smell of antiseptic filling her nose. Her shoulder was wrapped in bandages, and an IV drip was attached to her arm. Sunlight streamed through the window, too bright and too cheerful for how she felt. A nurse noticed her stirring and smiled. "Welcome back, Sergeant. You gave everyone quite a scare." Maya's throat was dry. "How long?" "About 14 hours. You lost a lot of blood, but the surgery went well. The bullet went clean through. No permanent damage." Maya closed her eyes, relief washing over her. "The general?"
"He's fine."
"Thanks to you." The nurse adjusted the IV. "You've had a lot of visitors. Command has been calling nonstop. The general himself came by, but you were still in surgery." Before Maya could respond, the door opened. Major Cole stepped inside, his face drawn and tired. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez," he said quietly. Maya straightened in the bed, wincing at the pain. "Sir." Major Cole stood at the foot of her bed, his hands clasped behind his back. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then he let out a slow breath. "I owe you an apology." Maya blinked, surprised. "You were right," he continued, his voice heavy with regret. "About the guards. About the threat. About everything. And I didn't listen. I dismissed you, insulted you, and nearly got General Harrison killed because of my arrogance." He paused, his jaw tight. "The 2 guards you flagged were part of a coordinated attack. They were hired by a domestic extremist group targeting military leadership. If you hadn't acted when you did..." He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Maya didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to feel vindicated, to throw his words back at him. But mostly she just felt exhausted. "I was doing my job, sir," she said quietly. "You did more than your job," Major Cole said. "You saved a man's life. And you did it after I told you to stand down. That took guts." He met her eyes. "I was wrong about you, Rodriguez, and I'll make sure everyone knows it." He saluted her, a gesture of respect that nearly brought tears to her eyes. After he left, Maya lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. Her shoulder throbbed, but her heart felt lighter than it had in days. She had been heard, finally, but she had a feeling this was only the beginning. The next 72 hours were a blur. Maya's hospital room became a revolving door of officers, investigators, and officials. The attack on General Harrison had sent shockwaves through the military community, and everyone wanted answers. Maya was interviewed by military intelligence, the FBI, and Homeland Security. She recounted every detail. The inconsistencies she had noticed in the background checks, the facial recognition match, the guard's suspicious behavior, and the moment she saw him draw his weapon. The investigators listened intently, taking notes, nodding with respect. It was a stark contrast to how Major Cole had treated her just days before. On the 3rd day, the door opened, and a man in a crisp dress uniform entered. Maya recognized him immediately, General William Harrison. She tried to sit up straighter, but he raised a hand. "At ease, Sergeant, you've done enough." He pulled a chair to her bedside and sat down, his expression serious but kind. Up close, Maya could see the lines of age and experience etched into his face. This was a man who had seen war, loss, and sacrifice. "I wanted to thank you personally," he said. "You saved my life." Maya shook her head slightly. "I was just doing my job, sir." "No," General Harrison said firmly. "You did far more than that. You saw a threat that others missed. You reported it through proper channels. And when you were ignored, you acted anyway, at great personal risk." He paused. "That's not just doing your job, that's courage." Maya felt her throat tighten. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't let it go. General Harrison nodded slowly. I've read your file, Rodriguez. 8 years of service. Excellent performance reviews. Multiple commendations. You have a gift for analysis, for seeing patterns others miss. He leaned forward. But I also read the reports from Major Cole. He dismissed you. Repeatedly. Even when you had credible concerns. Maya chose her words carefully. He was under a lot of pressure, sir. The event was important. That's not an excuse, General Harrison said. And it's a problem I've seen too many times in my career. Good soldiers, especially women, being ignored because they don't fit someone's outdated idea of what leadership looks like. His eyes were steady on hers. That ends now. Maya wasn't sure what he meant, but before she could ask, he stood. Get some rest, Sergeant. We'll talk again soon. He saluted her and she returned it as best she could with her injured shoulder. After he left, Maya lay back, her mind racing. What did he mean? That ends now. 2 weeks later, Maya was released from the hospital. Her shoulder was healing well, though physical therapy would take months. She returned to Fort Davidson expecting to resume her quiet work in intelligence analysis. But everything had changed. The story of the attempted assassination had gone national. News outlets ran headlines about the hero sergeant who took a bullet for a general. Maya's face was on television, in newspapers, and all over social media. Reporters camped outside the base, hoping for an interview. Maya hated the attention. She wasn't a hero. She was just a soldier who had done what needed to be done. But the Army saw it differently. She was called to a meeting with the base commander, Colonel Patricia Reeves, a sharp-eyed woman with a reputation for fairness and high standards. Sergeant Rodriguez, Colonel Reeves said, gesturing for Maya to sit. I'll get straight to the point. Your actions during the attack have not gone unnoticed. General Harrison has personally recommended you for the Soldier's Medal, one of the highest honors for non-combat heroism. Maya's eyes widened. Ma'am, I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept it, Colonel Reeves said with a small smile. But that's not all. General Harrison has also requested that you be assigned to his personal security and intelligence team. He wants analysts he can trust, people who won't be afraid to speak up even when it's uncomfortable. Maya's heart raced. He wants me on his team? He does. It would mean a promotion to Sergeant First Class, relocation to the Pentagon, and working directly with some of the top military minds in the country. Colonel Reeves studied her. It's a tremendous opportunity, but it's also a lot of pressure. You'd be under constant scrutiny. Every decision you make would be questioned. Maya thought about the years she had spent in that windowless office, staring at reports, filing analysis that sometimes felt like shouting into the void. She thought about the frustration of not being heard, of being dismissed and doubted, and she thought about the moment she had launched herself at General Harrison, knowing she might die but unable to stand by and do nothing. I'll do it, Maya said. Colonel Reeves nodded approvingly. I thought you might. You leave in 2 weeks. The day before Maya was set to leave Fort Davidson, she received an unexpected visitor. Major Dennis Cole appeared at her quarters, his posture stiff, his face serious. He asked if they could talk, and Maya led him to a small sitting area outside. They sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment before Major Cole spoke. I've been in the Army for 23 years, he said quietly. I've led men in combat. I've made life and death decisions. I thought I knew what good leadership looked like. He paused. But I failed you, Rodriguez. And in doing so, I nearly failed everyone. Maya waited, letting him continue. I let my ego get in the way. I thought experience and rank meant I knew better. I didn't listen to you because... He hesitated. Because you were young. Because you were a woman. Because admitting you might be right would mean admitting I was wrong. He met her eyes. That's not leadership. That's cowardice. Maya had imagined this conversation 100 times, had rehearsed all the things she might say, but now sitting across from him she found she didn't need to say much at all. "I appreciate that, sir," she said simply. Major Cole nodded. "I heard about your new assignment. You deserve it, and I hope you'll do better than I did. Listen to the people around you. Trust their instincts. Don't let pride blind you." "I'll do my best," Maya said. After he left, Maya sat in the fading sunlight, watching the desert sky turn shades of orange and pink. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the years of hard work, the moments of doubt, the struggle to be heard. She had been underestimated, dismissed, and ignored, but she had also been right, and she had been brave. And now, she was being given a chance to make a real difference. Tomorrow, she would leave for the Pentagon. She would step into a world of power and politics where every decision carried weight and every word mattered. But tonight she was just Maya Rodriguez, a soldier from a small town in Texas who had trusted her instincts and refused to back down. And that was enough. 3 months later, Maya sat in a sleek conference room at the Pentagon surrounded by maps, monitors, and classified reports. The walls were a muted gray, the lighting fluorescent and cold. It was a far cry from the desert heat of Fort Davidson. But Maya had adapted quickly. She was part of General Harrison's Strategic Intelligence Unit, a small team of analysts and operatives tasked with identifying and neutralizing threats to military leadership. The work was intense, the hours long, but Maya thrived in the environment. For the first time in her career, her voice carried weight. When she spoke, people listened. But today's meeting was different. General Harrison sat at the head of the table, his expression grim. Beside him were 2 representatives from the FBI and a liaison from the Department of Defense. Maya's stomach tightened. She had seen that look before. 3 days ago, General Harrison began, "We arrested a high-level contractor with access to military security protocols. He's been feeding information to the same extremist network that targeted me at Fort Davidson." Maya's pulse quickened. The investigation into the attack had uncovered a sprawling conspiracy, far larger than anyone had initially realized. The 2 guards who had tried to kill General Harrison were just foot soldiers. Someone higher up was orchestrating the attacks. "We've been interrogating him." The FBI agent, a woman named Agent Torres, continued. "And he's given us a name. Someone inside the military who's been helping the network from the inside." The room went silent. "Who?" Maya asked. Agent Torres glanced at General Harrison, who nodded. She slid a photograph across the table. Maya's blood ran cold. The face in the photo was familiar. Too familiar. Colonel Richard Brennan, a decorated officer with 30 years of service. A man who had served alongside General Harrison in multiple deployments. A man who was supposed to be a hero. "Brennan?" Maya whispered. "But he's trusted," General Harrison said, his voice hard. "Respected. Beyond suspicion." He paused, his jaw tight. "Which made him the perfect inside man," Agent Torres continued. "We believe Colonel Brennan has been facilitating attacks on military leadership for the past 2 years. He's motivated by ideology. He's aligned with a radical faction that believes current military leadership has become too soft, too political. He wants to destabilize the command structure and replace it with officers who share his extremist views." Maya's mind raced. "Do we have proof?" "Enough to bring him in for questioning," Agent Torres said. "But not enough to convict. He's been careful. The contractor we arrested is willing to testify, but a good defense attorney could tear his credibility apart." "We need more. What do you need from us?" Maya asked. General Harrison leaned forward. "Brennan is attending a classified briefing here at the Pentagon tomorrow. We're going to let him walk in and we're going to watch him. If he makes contact with anyone suspicious, if he accesses files he shouldn't, if he does anything that confirms his involvement, we'll have him. And if he doesn't?" Maya asked. "Then we keep watching," General Harrison said. "But I have a feeling he'll make a move. He doesn't know we're onto him yet. He'll feel safe." Agent Torres turned to Maya. "Sergeant Rodriguez, General Harrison has requested that you be part of the surveillance team. Your instincts were right about the attack at Fort Davidson. We're hoping you'll spot something others might miss." Maya nodded, adrenaline already coursing through her veins. "I'm in." The next day, Maya arrived at the Pentagon before dawn. She was positioned in a surveillance room with 3 other analysts, watching live feeds from cameras stationed throughout the building. Colonel Brennan's movements would be tracked from the moment he entered until the moment he left. At 800 hours, Brennan arrived. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with graying hair and an easy smile. He greeted the security personnel by name, joked with a passing officer, and moved through the building with the confidence of someone who belonged. Maya watched him on the monitors, her eyes sharp. He attended the briefing as scheduled, a 2-hour session on global threat assessments. Nothing unusual. But as the briefing ended and attendees began to disperse, Maya noticed something. Brennan didn't leave. He lingered near the back of the room, checking his phone. "Zoom in on Brennan," Maya said to the tech operator beside her. The camera focused on Brennan's face. He glanced around, then typed something into his phone. "Can we intercept that message?" Maya asked. The tech shook his head. "Encrypted. We'd need a warrant and at least an hour to crack it." Maya frowned. "Where's he going now?" Brennan exited the briefing room and headed down a corridor toward the east wing. Maya's team followed on the monitors, switching between cameras to keep him in view. He stopped outside a restricted access office. He glanced around, then used a keycard to enter. "That's a secure file room," one of the analysts said. "He shouldn't have access to that." Maya grabbed her radio. "General, Brennan just entered a restricted file room on the East Wing, level 3. General Harrison's voice crackled through the radio. "What's he doing?" Maya watched the screen. Brennan was at a computer terminal, typing rapidly. "He's accessing something. Downloading files, maybe." "We're moving in," General Harrison said. "Keep eyes on him." Maya's heart pounded as she watched Brennan on the monitor. He pulled a small USB drive from his pocket and inserted it into the computer. "He's copying files," Maya said into the radio. "Confirm he's copying classified files onto an external drive." "We've got him," General Harrison said. On the monitor, Maya saw the door to the file room burst open. General Harrison, Agent Torres, and 4 military police officers stormed in. Brennan looked up, his face flashing from surprise to fury. He yanked the USB drive from the computer and bolted for the door, but the MPs were faster. They tackled him to the ground, pinning his arms behind his back. Maya watched as Brennan struggled, shouting something she couldn't hear through the monitor. Agent Torres cuffed him, and General Harrison picked up the USB drive, holding it up to the camera. Maya exhaled, relief flooding through her. They had him. 2 weeks later, Maya stood in General Harrison's office, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the room. The USB drive Brennan had been carrying contained classified operational plans, security protocols, and the identities of undercover agents. Information that would have been catastrophic in the wrong hands. Brennan had confessed, hoping for a lighter sentence. He admitted to working with the extremist network for 3 years, motivated by a twisted belief that he was saving the military from weak leadership. He had facilitated the attack at Fort Davidson and had been planning more, but he had been stopped. And the network he worked with was being dismantled piece by piece. "Justice is slow," General Harrison said, standing by the window. "But it's coming." Maya nodded. "He'll spend the rest of his life in prison." "He will," General Harrison agreed. He turned to face her. "And you helped make that possible. Again." Maya shifted, uncomfortable with the praise. "I just did my job." "You keep saying that," General Harrison said with a small smile. "But one day you'll accept that you're more than just a soldier doing her job. You're a leader." Maya met his eyes. "I'm still learning. We all are," General Harrison said. "But you've got something most people don't. You trust yourself even when no one else does. You act even when it's hard. That's what leadership is." He handed her a folder. "There's a new assignment. High-level threat assessment for a joint task force. I want you to lead the intelligence division." Maya's eyes widened. "Lead?" "You've earned it," General Harrison said. "Multiple times over." Maya opened the folder, scanning the details. It was a massive responsibility, the kind of position she had once thought was years away. But she had learned something over the past months. She had learned that waiting for permission, waiting to be believed, waiting for others to see her worth, that wasn't enough. Sometimes, you had to trust yourself first. "I'll do it," Maya said. General Harrison smiled. "I know you will." 6 months later, Maya stood in front of a room full of young soldiers at Fort Davidson. She had been invited back to speak at a leadership seminar. And as she looked out at the faces, some eager, some skeptical, some uncertain, she saw herself years ago. When I first joined the army, Maya began, I thought if I just worked hard enough, if I was just good enough, people would listen to me. But I learned that's not always true. Sometimes even when you're right, people won't hear you. Sometimes you'll be dismissed, doubted, or ignored. She paused, letting the words sink in. But that doesn't mean you stop. It doesn't mean you give up. It means you trust yourself. You do the right thing even when it's hard, even when no one believes you. Because eventually the truth comes out, and when it does, you want to know you stood for something. A young female soldier in the front row raised her hand. What if you're wrong? What if you speak up and you're wrong? Maya smiled. Then you learn. You adapt. But I'd rather be wrong and willing to act than right and too afraid to speak. She looked around the room. Don't wait for permission to be brave. Don't wait for someone else to see your value. Trust your instincts. Use your voice. And never ever let anyone make you feel small for doing what's right. The room erupted in applause.